It's a silent, glassy night on Scotland's Butte Sound. 3 trawlers drift across the bay, their deck lights glowing faintly on the calm water. From time to time, they pass one another, dragging their heavy nets through the deep trench below. The captains keep their eyes fixed on the dark horizon, while the deckhands work tirelessly, guiding ropes, checking lines, keeping rhythm with the sea. But beneath the quiet surface, something else is stirring. A series of unseen events has already begun to unfold, a chain reaction that none of the men above have any idea about. For one of these boats, a single turn of the wheel will soon decide everything. This is the story of the Antares, Loch U, Scotland. The HMS Trenchant, a nuclear-powered Trafalgar-class submarine, cuts silently through the gray water. 82 meters of steel, crewed by 120 sailors. It's a cold, overcast morning, and 6 trainees prepare to board under the watchful eye of their commanding officer. They were here for one of the Royal Navy's most grueling challenges, the Perisher course, a 24-week test of endurance and intellect, created to determine who has what it takes to command a submarine. It's infamous for breaking even the best. Those who fail never command again. Their instructor, a man with 18 years of experience beneath the waves, completed his own Perisher back in 1980. Now 10 years later, he's the one judging others. Once aboard, the Trenchant sets course for an exercise zone between Scotland and the Faroe Islands. For 4 long days, the submarine runs drills, simulations, and underwater maneuvers designed to push the candidates to their mental and physical limits. Meanwhile, back on land, in the small fishing village of Carradale, the wooden trawler Antares is being readied for a 5-day trip. The crew loads supplies, checks their gear, and cast off under the still, moonlit sky. Their destination, the deep trench of the Butte Sound, northeast of the Isle of Arran, a rich fishing ground they've worked many times before. The Antares was built in 1965, 57 feet long, sturdy and reliable. She carries a crew of 4. Her skipper, 36 years old, has fished these waters for years. 3 years ago, he bought the Antares and has worked her ever since. For him and his men, this night felt no different than any other. Another trip, another catch, another quiet voyage. 2 other trawlers, the Heroine from Troon and the Hercules from Ayr, are also fishing nearby. Over the next few days, the 3 vessels remain in radio contact, occasionally crossing paths as they work their nets through the Sound. By the evening of November 21st, the weather is near perfect. Gentle winds, 8 miles of visibility, and an air temperature of 11 degrees Celsius. The Antares stops briefly at the small port of Largs to unload her catch, then returns to the southern end of the Butte Sound. At 5:30 p.m., the crew drop their lines once more, towing northwest into the darkness. Ahead of them, they can see the faint glow of the Heroine's deck lights. The skipper of the Antares picks up the VHF radio. He tells the Heroine's captain that he'll be resting below deck for a while, leaving another crewman at the helm. The 2 chat briefly before signing off with a casual over and out. By this time, far away, the Trenchant has finished her first phase of exercises in the North Sea and is now heading south again. The Perisher course is taking its toll. 6 trainees are now down to 4. The submarine moves to the Clyde training area, accompanied by the surface ship Charybdis, which plays the role of an opposing force in their next drills. At 11:30 p.m., the Trenchant is ordered to perform a mock mine-laying exercise in the narrow Hunter Channel. The Charybdis hunts for her as the submarine performs evasive maneuvers, testing the trainee's ability to hide in shallow waters. When the drill ends, both vessels move into open sea for a simulated attack exercise. At 1:31 a.m., the Trenchant rises quietly to periscope depth. Through the narrow scope, the officer on duty scans the horizon and reports seeing only the Charybdis. No other ships in sight. The exercise continues another 30 minutes until, at exactly 2:00 a.m., it's declared complete. The submarine sinks back down to 60 meters and heads northwest at 6 knots toward the Isle of Arran. The commanding officer and course leader retire to the wardroom to discuss the trainees' performance, leaving control of the sub to one of the students. Above them, the Heroine continues towing northwest. She passes the Antares, which is now heading southeast. 10 minutes later, the heroine's watchkeeper looks back and notices the Antares turning starboard, aligning with a new northwesterly course. Everything looks completely normal. At 2:00 a.m., the heroine and Hercules exchange a short radio message. They note that the Antares is no longer visible, not by eye, nor on radar, but assume she's simply moved further off. No concern is raised. Beneath the dark waters, the trenchant's trainee captain orders a new heading. 315 degrees, true north. Moments later, multiple sonar contacts light up on the display. M1, 3, 5, and 45. Contact M1 is identified as the Charybdis leaving the area, but Contact 5 is different. It's classified as a fishing vessel, and it's getting louder, fast. Passive sonar can't measure exact distance, but at 35 decibels, the sound is alarmingly close. The trainee reacts instantly, ordering a sharp turn to port. The submarine's massive bow cuts through the deep water, but in seconds, the sonar operator calls out, "Contact 5 is closing rapidly, too rapidly." It's now well within the 2,000-yard exclusion zone. The officer tries to ease the turn to slow the approach, but it's too late. At 2:19 a.m., a thunderous shudder rips through the submarine's hull. The control room echoes with sharp metallic bangs. The sonar operator yells, "Trawl snag!" Engines are stopped immediately as wire and steel scrape violently across the submarine's exterior. Through the operator's headsets, a strange new sound emerges, the frantic whir of a propeller spinning up, then cutting off. The course leader rushes back, taking command as the control room fills with alarm. For the 4 men aboard the Antares, the next moments are pure chaos. 1 second, all is calm. The next, their trawl wires go rigid. The boat lurches sharply, throwing them off their feet as the submarine below drags their gear. The Antares rolls hard to starboard, seawater crashing through the wheelhouse windows. The skipper and one crewmate fight desperately to escape. They try to gun the engines to pull free to break the lines, but the violent pull of the submarine is unstoppable. The Antares floods fast, her wooden hull no match for the deep. In seconds she's gone, swallowed by the black water, her lights vanishing into silence. Up above, the trenchant rises again to periscope depth. The captain surveys the surface, 2 trawlers still fishing, everything calm. No distress lights, no flares, nothing. He radios the Charybdis. Her captain reports no alarms, no mayday calls. Still uneasy, the trenchant's commander orders the sub to surface for inspection. When the crew reaches the conning tower, they find steel wire and netting tangled around it, evidence of a trawl snag. But with no sign of distress topside, the incident seems minor. They report the event to base and, seeing no cause for alarm, continue their exercise. Hours later, as dawn breaks, word spreads across the coast. Something is wrong. By 9 a.m., debris is sighted drifting near Butte Sound, fish boxes, oil slicks, and wooden fragments. Search and rescue are launched immediately. Helicopters circle the area, spotting the telltale signs of a wreck. That evening, a recovery vessel locates the Antares on the seafloor. 150 meters down, lying on her starboard side, still facing northeast. Saturation divers descend into the cold blackness, and soon the truth is confirmed. The wreck belongs to the Antares. In the following weeks, the vessel is slowly raised. When she finally surfaces, her structure is found mostly intact, her wooden hull barely damaged. Only her equipment has succumbed to the sea, but of her crew, only 3 are recovered. The 4th remains lost for months. The investigation concludes that the collision was caused by a breakdown in the submarine's watchkeeping and situational awareness. The officers failed to recognize that the sonar contact they saw was actually 2 separate vessels. Royal Navy orders required submarines to keep at least 2,000 yards clear of fishing boats, and the trenchant's own captain had personally ordered a 4,000-yard safety buffer. Neither precaution was followed that night. In the aftermath, the Navy implemented strict new rules, a mandatory 3,000-yard separation between submarines and surface trawlers. Submarines must surface when not in active duty, and all exercises must include a visible surface escort. But for the families of the Antares, those changes came too late. Her wreck remained on display for 18 years at the Scottish Maritime Museum, a haunting reminder of what happens when silence beneath the sea meets life above it. In 2008, the vessel was finally dismantled. Today, the pier at Caradale still hums with life. Fishermen mend their nets. Ropes creak softly against wooden posts. But if you walk to the seawall and look east, toward the Isle of Arran, you'll find a small plaque, a quiet tribute to the Antares and her 4 crewmen who never came home.